You answer the phone because you always answer calls from numbers you don't recognize. It is a habit from years of waiting for calls about your father's health. A habit you have not lost, even though your father has been gone for 2 years, and there is nothing left to wait for. The number on the screen is your own childhood home. You have not thought about that number in a long time. It is a number you know by muscle memory, the way you know the layout of that house in the dark. 7 steps from the bedroom door to the bathroom, 12 steps down the stairs, the 3rd step from the bottom that always creaked. You dialed that number from payphones and school offices for most of your childhood. You have not dialed it since you were 19 years old. You answer. The voice on the line is a child's, a girl's, high and soft and slightly out of breath, the way children sound when they have been running. You recognize the voice immediately and completely in the way you would recognize your own face in a photograph taken before you had memory. The voice is yours. You are certain of this with a certainty that is not rational and does not require confirmation. The girl says, "Hello? Is someone there?" You say nothing. She says, "I can hear you breathing. Please, I'm lost. I don't know where the corner went. I can see the Hendersons' mailbox, but I can't find the turn." You know the Hendersons' mailbox. It was white with a red flag that never fully extended. It stood on the corner of Delwood and Atwood, 2 blocks from the house you grew up in. You haven't thought about the Hendersons' mailbox in 30 years. You say, "I'm here. What street are you on?" She says, "Delwood." But it goes wrong after the mailbox. It doesn't turn right anymore. It just keeps going. And it gets dark faster here. You ask her if she is okay. You asked her where she is trying to go. She says, "Home. I'm trying to go home. I was at the creek." She hesitates. "I wasn't supposed to go to the creek. I went anyway. I went through the drainage culvert because Theo dared me. And I went too far. And when I came out the other end, the street was different. You know this story. You know it not because you were told it, but because you lived it. You were 8 years old. You went through the drainage culvert on a summer afternoon, on a dare from a boy named Theo Marsh, who sat behind you in 2nd grade and whose family moved to Ohio the following year. You went through the culvert and came out the other end, and you were missing for 3 hours. You always told your parents you had gotten turned around in the neighborhood. They believed you because children get turned around, because you came home safe and a little muddy, and you knew where you were, you said. But you had not always known where you were. There had been a stretch of time, 40 minutes, an hour, you were never certain, when the streets had not been the streets you knew, when Delwood had kept going past the Hendersons' mailbox instead of turning, when the light had thinned to a quality you had no word for at 8 years old and still have no word for now. You had found your way home. You never understood how. You say, "I know where you are." The girl on the phone makes a small sound, relief or something adjacent to it. You tell her to face the Hendersons' mailbox. You tell her the street turns. She just has to face the mailbox, close her eyes, turn right, and walk, and not open her eyes until she smells the neighbor's rose bush, which blooms in June and smells like pepper and soap. She says, "It's not June, it's August." You say, "I know. The bush still smells like that in August. Trust me." A pause. You hear her footsteps, small, fast. The crunch of gravel that you remember as the edge of the Hendersons' yard, the part where the lawn gave out to the alley. Then, a longer pause. Then, "I can smell it." She sounds awed. "I can smell the roses." You say, "Turn left at the smell. Go 20 steps. Count them." She counts. You count with her, under your breath, 20 steps, in a rhythm you still know, a rhythm you learned going home from the Hendersons' corner 1,000 times. At 20, she says, "I'm on Atwood. I can see our house. I can see the porch light." You stay on the phone until she says, "I can see Mom through the window." Then the line changes. It doesn't go to static or to a tone. It changes the way a room changes when you turn a light off, a complete and immediate alteration of quality. The girl's voice is gone. In its place, for 3 or 4 seconds, there is a sound you cannot describe precisely. The nearest you can come to it is the inside of the culvert, the sound of running water against concrete in the dark, the smell of iron and earth that you have never forgotten. Then the line is silent. You sit with the phone in your hand for a long time. You are not a person who believes in things that cannot be explained. You are a person who has spent 30 years not thinking about the 40-minute gap in a childhood afternoon, not thinking about the street that kept going instead of turning, not thinking about the quality of the light in a place you have no words for. You open your phone's call log. The number is there. Your childhood home number. The call lasted 11 minutes and 44 seconds. You search for the number in the directory. The house was sold 22 years ago. The current owners are a retired couple who list no children. The number has not been reassigned. It is still registered to the property. You call it. It rings 7 times. No voicemail. No answer. You tell yourself the story is a technical problem, a ghost signal, a crossed line, a deeply wrong and specific coincidence of voice patterns. You tell yourself this is a thing that can be explained. At 2 a.m., you stop telling yourself things and accept what you know. You went through the culvert when you were 8. You came out somewhere else. You were lost in a street that kept going, in a light that was wrong, for somewhere between 40 minutes and an hour. You found your way home because something guided you. You always assumed it was luck, instinct, the navigational sense that children have in their own neighborhoods. It was not. It was a phone call. You know this now the way you know the layout of the house in the dark, the way you know the creak on the 3rd step, the way you know 7 steps from the bedroom to the bathroom. Some knowledge lives in the body and does not require evidence. Someone called you when you were lost. The voice that called was yours, adult and steady, and you recognized it without understanding it. You closed your eyes, turned right, smelled the roses, counted 20 steps. Tonight, you were the voice. You don't know what this means about the shape of time, about the mechanism by which a call can travel from a Tuesday night in the present to a summer afternoon 30 years prior, about what happens to the gap between the culvert exit and the familiar street when a child crosses it. You know only this. You found your way home because you called yourself. You know only this. Somewhere tonight, an 8-year-old girl is climbing the steps of the house you grew up in, slightly muddy, slightly odd, smelling of roses and creek water. You know only this. The light in the place where the street kept going is still on. You can see it if you close your eyes. You have always been able to see it. Twilight Registry note. This account was submitted via the registry's anomalous communication intake form. The submitting party requested anonymity. They included one attachment: a photograph of a child's handwriting on a piece of notebook paper. The paper appears very old, water-damaged, slightly yellowed. The handwriting says, "I made it home. I heard your voice. I knew it was you." Don't lose the number. The submitting party notes that they do not know where this photograph came from. It was in a shoebox of childhood materials their mother left them. They found it tonight for the first time after the phone call. The photograph was taken at some point before 1999. The shoebox has been sealed since 2004. Case status: open. Classification: recursive signal. Reviewing officer's note: the call closed the loop. We do not know what happens when the loop is closed.